Hello, everyone. This is Chad Hill, and I have Adam Stetzer on the phone.
Hey everybody, good afternoon.
Today, we are excited to be talking about selling email, and I will jump right in and start framing up our discussion here. So I wanted to start by just putting email in perspective and also talking a little bit about where I think most people think of email. So this diagram shows various places and ways you can drive traffic to your website. You have online marketing, search engine marketing, banner networks, being active on blogs, commenting, forums, search engine optimization, social networks, and our good friend email. So, in this context, email is a way to find potentially new people and bring them into your website. So let's talk a little bit about email as a traffic driver in this situation. I think a lot of people get worried when you start talking about lists because they are a little tricky, and you have to be creative about how you go about building your list without crossing the line. So I think one of the most important things that you can do is build a targeted list that's relevant to your audience, that's relevant where that audience is interested in your product. Because the more your email is targeted to a certain group that may be interested, the less likely they are to get mad and perhaps say that it's spam or unsubscribe to your list. So that is a very important part. And the second thing that you have to do is you have to have a good email template. And so one of the things that really drives is more important than most any other thing is having a good subject line that is relevant to the audience who's getting that email. And then, of course, once they open it, it needs to have well-designed and a well-written email. And on that note, one of the things that we found, and not only with our own marketing but our clients' marketing, is that having some sort of friendly way into the email gets you a much higher click-through rate. So when you're providing interesting information, 3 tips on how to optimize your Google Places map result, or the 3 ways that you can build more links to your website, you're more likely to get people engaged, open up that email, provide that content, and then you'll see a link over to, you can then at that point sell whatever service or soft sell your service to have them invite them over to your website. And while the example I just provided is relevant to the business that we're all in, promoting and selling online marketing, it's definitely relevant to all of your clients. So every one of your clients has exactly the same scenario, whether it's a moving company that maybe wants to provide 3 or 4 tips on how to make your move go smoother, or whether it's a dentist who might want to talk about 3 or 4 ways to increase or promote better dental hygiene. So these are all things that come into play when you're talking about email as a traffic driver.
And Chad, I'm wondering if people listening, back on your point about lists and building lists of people on this webinar, I'd love some feedback in the chat window. Do you view the size of your list as a core business metric? I know we do. We look at it every week. We talk about it with our marketing team. We're always brainstorming how to grow it and how to keep it clean. I'm wondering if you're doing that. And if you're not, why not? Have you not been sold that that should be a core metric of yours? And just be interested in that feedback.
And since this webinar is really about selling email, I don't want this to so much be talking about how it's important, I think, for everyone here to think about, again, their own business. But whatever we're talking about now, go through your list of clients, because I know for a fact that many clients that we look at, that we work with every day, are not really doing anything with email. It's basically funny because what's old is new in this case, right? Look at companies like Groupon and the whole daily deal fad. That's, as much as they say it's social, it's really email. It's really email that's driving that traffic and hitting lists and learning what you're opening and what you're not opening and how to make those deals more targeted. So, what we're talking about today as it relates to selling online marketing, again, I think that there's some low-hanging fruit here to go back to all your clients who right now may be engaged with you on a search engine optimization campaign and talk to them about how email can fit in. And we're going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, exactly, Chad. I know it's a bit of a leading question, too, because I know we always sell and promote things that we use ourselves, so I'm interested in what people think about it. I got one comment already that piped in. Yes, it's a core metric for my business. I look at the number every day. Thanks, Matt, for sharing that. Others, I'd be interested in your feedback as Chad plows forward with the slides.
But really what I wanted to get to, because I think it's the quickest way to sell email, is that email is really more than just another medium for driving traffic. It really is a fantastic way for you to nurture prospects and actually increase your conversion rate on the people that you're already driving from all the other mediums that are part of the current marketing mix. So if you're driving traffic through social media, or if you're driving traffic through pay-per-click, email, actually the great thing about email is you kind of get to cheat because you get to use all those other mediums to help build who you can talk to, and then you get to sort of take credit, because the reality is that we know from our experience and that of our clients that without some sort of nurturing program, and this is a very conservative estimate, my guess is that 10 to 20% of leads will just completely slip through the cracks. And so you have here on the right a little illustration of basically, money flying out the window, right? It literally is money flying out the window, where you're spending all this time and effort driving traffic to the website, maybe even having those people sign up to be contacted for more information, but either your sales team doesn't follow up, or they follow up once, or the person maybe isn't quite ready to fill out the form, but they may be ready to download a white paper or some other type of informational asset. And so the great thing about email is that in those situations, you can become the hero, right? You can become this medium where all these people are driving traffic, coming to the website, filling out forms, doing things, and then now you can sort of nurture those people from halfway interested into people that are ready to buy. And we see this time and time again. And there really isn't always, it isn't always necessarily that people are unsure or need an informational asset. It's just that people are busy. And so they take the time to fill out the form, but when the salesperson calls them back, even if it's immediately or within an hour, and certainly worse if it's the next day or 2 days later, they may not have time to talk to that person. And so email becomes the way of just triggering a reminder that, oh yeah, I did want to speak to that business, or I was interested in that product. I didn't have time when the salesperson called me, but it reminds me I need to go back and call that person or follow up with the company. So email is a fantastic way of really activating the traffic that you're already getting. So even if you don't do anything on the prior slide in terms of building lists and trying to figure out how do you drive new traffic to your website, email absolutely should be used to help activate existing customers and prospects who aren't yet customers of yours. So just to continue with that point, I think it really is the easiest sell out there. Now, there are a lot of obstacles, I think, that get in the way, and we're going to talk about some of those. But here are some things you can do with email, especially when you're talking about the low-hanging fruit, which is taking your existing customer list and nurturing prospects that are coming to the website. You can take existing customers and have them buy new products. So if you sell products online, when you send out emails, people will convert. And I have at the bottom here that there's proven ROI on this, that all of the e-commerce companies that we work with, when they look at their lowest cost per action, it's always the email channel. And why is that? Because these people typically were already interested in the product, know about it, or they're existing customers. So getting them to take a second action isn't nearly as hard as convincing somebody who is coming to your website for the first time. Another idea for maybe a non-e-commerce or someone who doesn't sell something online is use it to generate community and content on your website. So whether that's some of the things we talk about, asking customers to write a review on Google Places or on your website, or maybe make a comment on a blog that you're keeping up with. These are ways that you can actually take some of the other effort you're doing, blogging and whatnot, and by putting your latest post and saying we invite you to come have a discussion with us online, it's a way to get people to engage. That's good because it makes your website look more well sort of visited and people interacting there, but also it gives you user-generated content on the website for SEO purposes. Another reason might be generating referrals. We have the My Customer Review program that helps you monitor and measure people who have referred other people to a product, but you can use My Customer Review, or you can simply just have, refer a friend and set up your own manual program. But it's a way to get word of mouth referrals going by sending out emails to sort of stimulate that type of marketing program. New services is another area that again, nurturing current customers and prospects. When you launch new services, the best way to get a couple people to buy it immediately is to hit your current customers. Now, that's similar to buying new products. Maybe it's a little different in the way that actually gets executed, but same idea. And then I think finally, just keeping people informed. So one example, and all of you benefit from this. We send out the search news to all of your current customers, and we find, at least in some the direct business that we have, that when we send out that newsletter, and in our case it goes out with our logo on it, we get people emailing back saying, hey, yeah, I was actually thinking about, what am I going to do with Facebook, and how can I make sure that I'm taking advantage of what's going on with Facebook? So could you guys give me a call and tell me about that? And my guess is that some of you have had the same experience with the search news, because what we try to do is really use it as a way to make sure, one, that your customers are sort of aware that you're on top of things, but also just to jog people's memory to say, yeah, I do want to look into Facebook. So this same idea of search news can be applied to really any of your clients. So again, using the examples we talked about before, if you're the dentist, just again, hitting people with new information reminds them to say, I do need to go in the dentist and get my teeth cleaned, or some other higher end service like whitening or whatever it might be. I know that another one, the accountant that an accountant that I've used in the past, he sends out a monthly set of blog updates, and so it just again keeps me kind of aware of what's going on in that world. And then sometimes there might be something that catches my eye, and I say, hey, I want to learn more about that. So I already mentioned this, but again, just want to reiterate that these programs have proven ROI. And it does in two ways. One is that it's going to help improve the ROI on other online marketing programs, right? Because if you can take the 10 to 20% that were falling through the cracks and get some percentage of those to become prospects and become real business, then now when you look back at the originating source, depending on how you want to attribute that lead, but if you look back at the originating source, now your SEO program or your pay-per-click program has a better cost per action because you used email to help close, close that lead. And then, as I mentioned, that generally speaking, these house email lists have the lowest CPA.
Yeah, I think this is interesting stuff. I mean, it's sometimes just not as complicated as people think, Chad. You're mentioning it here. It's about connecting the dots for people, staying in front of them, recognizing they're busy, and they wouldn't necessarily think of you. I like your example of Facebook. Maybe they're thinking about Facebook, but for some reason they're not thinking about you. But then if they see that newsletter pop up a day or so after that thoughts cross their mind, you're just connecting the dots for them. A couple comments that came in are sort of along these same lines. I have found that people like to buy from a pro. So if you're establishing yourself as that pro month in and month out by sending out consistent emails with good quality, then when they are ready to buy, they'll call you. I think that's very consistent with what Chad's saying here. Another comment that came in, I also like to send out any awards or other notable things about my business. I recently won an award, sent it out in a newsletter, and saw that I got a few inquiries out of it. So that's another one. You can almost use it as a soft press release channel. Exactly.
Yeah, so those are great examples, and again, this is applicable to every business. So the nice thing about us using email to market HubShout and you using email to market your businesses is that by leading by example, you're able to then talk about real-world examples that you've seen success with, so that when you go out to sell these services, you kind of have that under your belt in terms of having the success running the program. So Adam mentioned this is a good segue to the slide, which are what are some of the obstacles and mistakes that people make when thinking about how to run email marketing or how to add email marketing to their online marketing mix. I think the first one is just one that is kind of always near and dear to my heart, which is that you just get so kind of caught up in the coolness of the various software that you just start bouncing from email service provider to email service provider. And really the real opportunity is pick one, and shameless plug, but we're here. Ours is good, and spend the time building campaigns, right? Ours is good, it's free, it's integrated into the system, and it also is something you can sell to your clients. So more than just pick one, pick ours, because that's a really important part, I think, where we're going to go with this, is that it's, again, the integration that is really the value that you can bring to the program. So that's one mistake. So just eliminate that and go right on to the next one here. I think another one we've seen is picking an overly complicated template and getting stuck on the content. So you go in either to our template library or you go to other template libraries or have someone design one for you, and you basically have this thing that looks amazing, right? This template looks amazing, but when you sit down and actually send out the email, you realize, what am I going to plug into this template? It's so complicated, and I need so many graphics and different things to make it look right that it just takes too much time. So go simple to start. Basically make sure you get your logo and you get a nice, maybe a button or two and an image or two in the email, but don't kill yourself on picking the craziest, fanciest template in the world. You'd be better off getting good content with a couple good images and getting it out there. And then plus, the other thing to mention is that with so much use on mobile devices, you're way better off to have a simpler email template that can be read across various platforms instead of one that has a very formatted, fixed view that really only looks good on a larger monitor. The next one is kind of getting stuck on really where making email separate from the rest of your marketing. And there's really no shame in reusing content. So if you're doing blogging or you're doing social media or you're doing press releases, as Adam said, that content is what you should send out in your emails. It's just, don't make it hard. Don't say, oh, I need to send out a newsletter, now I need to write something different. Flip that around and say, I need to send out a newsletter. What have I already written this month or in the last 30 days that I can just quickly get into this email and get it out? Because really the important thing here is that it's really that multi-pronged pushing of content. So, some people choose to consume content through email, some of it's social media, some of it by coming to your website and reading your blog. So really use and integrate all that information in one place, slightly different presentation, maybe slightly different length depending on where you're putting it, but use the content you already have. And I think finally the biggest mistake people make is just not using email, because we've sort of made the case here that it's low-hanging fruit and something that everyone should be adding into their online marketing campaign.
Yeah, and a couple of comments, Chad, that came in. One's very much along the lines of what you said a few bullet points ago, which is a cool thing I did last year is I set up all my newsletters for the whole year ahead of time so they're ready to go. Just sat down and punched them out. This is a great thing you can help clients do. And I guess the only place where I would see that not working is if you're really trying to stay cutting edge with some sort of news topics. But if you're helping clients in very mundane industries, that's very much going to work. And as Chad said, they don't have to be perfect, but you prep them up, you get them ready, or you help your client do that, and you're getting those touches. A second person chimed in and said, yeah, I don't really think of reusing content because you've drilled in our heads that duplicate content is bad, but that's an SEO concept. Here we're talking about email. So as Chad said, shamelessly recycle. Politicians use the same talking points over and over again to get their message across. Do the same thing here, and you've got lots of material, and you'll have those touch points which will help you grow business.
Yeah, and I think on that one point about not duplicate content, let's just make sure we kind of think about where that matters. If you do put a blog post up, that's the original content, especially on your website, that's the original content. But from there, that should get posted out to the social networks. That can then be recycled and put into a blog, into your email, and it could potentially be used in other places. But yeah, you don't want to obviously be using duplicate content by taking the same blog post and putting it on multiple websites. Okay, so then how can we help with this? What do we have? Well, the first thing we have, and we're going to look at this in a second here, is we have a do-it-yourself platform. So we have the ability for you to create lists, to set up templates, to send out those templates either in an autoresponder fashion or as a one-time newsletter. We also have list building features like the ability to have a form on your website where people can enter their email address and be added to your newsletter list or any other informational list you create. We also have the ability when someone is filling out one of your lead forms to take that information in addition to making it showing it on the lead, our sales tab. We can also automatically add it to a email list. So that's really great if you're talking about using this as a CRM and a nurturing prospect. So someone's interested in being contacted by sales, but you can provide a little air cover to sales by sending out a 7-day autoresponder that hits some of the key points that someone might be thinking about as they're making their decision on which company to use. So the sales can contact them, but while they're engaged in that conversation, they're getting a nice little drip of emails going out over whatever period of time. It could be 7 days, it could be 180 days, depending on the typical decision cycle. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is really the done-for-you services. And I think if you draw the parallels between email marketing and SEO, one of the reasons that I think we're all working together and people are bringing us into the mix is because we're all experts in search engine optimization and pay-per-click and the other services we provide. But people realize they just don't have the time to reliably deliver and do the activities that are needed to improve your rankings in search engines. And I think that's very much the same here with email. I think everyone sort of knows the kind of stuff you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to send out a monthly newsletter. You should be doing some type of autoresponder. But just in the craziness of running businesses or running marketing departments, that stuff just isn't getting done. And so what HubShot can do for you and then ultimately for your clients is bring some services into play. So we have our do-it-yourself software that can do everything that any other email marketing service that we've looked at that we feel like it needs to be able to do. So we've got that, and you can put your brand on that. But then we can also, just like SEO, bring our analyst team and other members of our team, design team, onto the project to help you build templates. So we're going to walk through using one of our off-the-shelf templates. But there's a lot of times where people want some custom changes. They want a custom header graphic or a slightly different version of that template. We can help you do that. And all this information is in our standard pricing sheet on some of these services. So that's a one-time deal. We can help you set up a template very simply. The other thing we can do is we can help you write autoresponder content. So if working with you or your client, if we put together sort of the general idea of typical decision cycle for this product or service is about 10 days, and these are the things that people really are thinking about when they're making this decision, we can have one of our writers put together a series of emails that kind of walk through different topics that go out over the course of that 10 days. And if you want to throw in an offer or some other way of sweetening the deal over time, that's also fine. So those are things that we can help you do. And again, that can be a one-time service. So we help you set up the autoresponder, and again, that can go along with creating a landing page for pay-per-click. As we start running the pay-per-click campaign, we have a much better chance if we have an autoresponder in place to maybe convert some of those leads we're getting into actual business. So that's something that could be done, or do it with SEO as well. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about is a more of an ongoing service to create a monthly newsletter. And so many of you have talked to us about our social media services. It's a similar idea where we're involved in getting a sense of what are some of the key issues that are going on in the business, and that same approach to sort of pull out that information can be used to get to some salient points and some talking points for a newsletter that would go out that month, and then it can be sent. And so, depending on the business, again, if it's your business, we already have the search news that we've written. And so if that's something that you wanted to sort of turn away from just going out to your prospects just going out to your clients, but turn that into something that would go out to your prospects, that's pretty much, you already have everything you need more or less to start doing that. But we can help your clients do the same thing.
Right, and Jeb, while you were talking, I was IMing with the participants, asking, what if you're not using our platform today, what are you using, and what are some of your thoughts? And I got a couple people said we're using Constant Contact. I know clients who are using Constant Contact. I think we've all heard that advertised. I asked them, what are they paying? So I got an answer that said $75, another one said $150. So I think what Chad's saying here is we've got that same functionality built into your private label portal where you are the constant contact for your client. And so you can do one of two things. You can charge them that $75 to $150 and put them on your platform. You can undercut the price, but I think more importantly, you can wrap around it all these done-for-you services that Chad's listing here that we can fulfill for you. And I had another comment on that, Chad, saying on these done-for-you services slide that Chad's covering, where are those prices listed?
Yeah, they're in the standard pricing sheet that if you don't have it, you should ask your account manager. But basically, they're in the pricing document. There are a series of services that people have asked us for over time, whether that's landing page creation, email template creation. But that's all laid out, and we give you a little bit of a methodology about what's included, whether or not how we gather our information, whether it's a questionnaire or a discussion with the client. So you should ask your account manager, and they can get that information to you.
Cool. And I just think the business case here of expanding the breadth of your services into being the constant contact for your client, but under your own logo where the data is integrated right next to the SEO or the PPC or whatever it was that got your foot in the door, maybe your web design work, is just a fantastic move in terms of driving that customer retention, growing your revenues, strengthening your relationship with that client. It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, and on that point, Adam, I think one of the things that we've talked about many times is that when you do go into those client meetings, and we strongly recommend some type of monthly account review with your clients, when you can go in with the results from SEO, but also other online marketing, it just gives you, as you said, a much stronger relationship and a more sort of integrated relationship with the client, because you really have a better sense of what's going on across you're really part of their entire online marketing strategy. And that's generally a good place to be, because now you're the advisor, you know what's going on, and you get that chance to sort of have your opinion in the mix earlier than a new vendor who's trying to pitch services.
Right, and I know sometimes people say to me when I talk to some of the resellers, you guys on the phone, they say that argument makes a lot of sense, but I just have never sold an email product. I'm not feeling confident enough. Whereas I know my way around SEO, or you've trained me enough to know my way around SEO or PPC, and certainly web design, things I've done for a long time. So I think on that point, if that's where you're saying this argument makes sense, there is a business case here, but I don't have the confidence to do it. I think that's where Chad's point of, well, use it on yourself first as a self-training mechanism to drink the Kool-Aid and understand it, and you'll be so much better at then pushing out and representing it as you sell it.
Agreed, yeah. And I think one other point on that is that I think what we're trying to do is give you some easy ins on email, because my guess is that there's a lot of companies that sort of, by being bombarded by constant contact for 10 plus years, know they should be doing a monthly newsletter. And so that's something that maybe they're doing, maybe they're not, but yeah, that's pretty well established. But I do think that this lead nurturing is a really current thing that a lot of companies don't really understand how it works, but it's really powerful. And I think that again, we see it, you might see it in your business, we see it in our clients' business, that people just are really busy, and if you can get them to leave some information, email is a fantastic way to really retarget them, get them back to the website, and then take an action. And sometimes this is a year later. We have at HubShout, people that filled out a contact us form a year ago that are on our monthly newsletter that contact us after a year saying, I talked to you last year, I really think I need you guys now, so give me a call. And that's the kind of thing that, again, if we hadn't sent that email, that person would have just never remembered how they found us in the first place, or that they'd even talked to us in the first place. So enough of that. I want to jump into a demo and just make sure everyone, because I know we have some new people on the phone, so I want to make sure everyone is familiar with what we're talking about and some of the product and what's already in the system today. So I'm logged in as myself, and I'm on the email screen tab, and actually I've selected the BetHubs campaign. And so there's a help bar here that I just want to scroll down so people can remember that we do have some help on setting up your email campaigns. The first thing you need to do is set up your from address. Actually, backing up from that one step, when you initially onboard and come in as a reseller, your account manager should be helping you, or at least giving you the option to set up an Amazon SES account so that you can send your emails via Amazon's simple email service. And again, for those of you who are new, the reason we made that choice is because, one, it's a great deal. It's 10 cents per 1,000 emails. So back to the cost of Constant Contact or other platforms, it's really inexpensive. But more importantly, they have a big team there focused on deliverability. And that's really a lot of why what you're buying in an email marketing service is you want to make sure that when you press send and your emails go out, that they're getting delivered through the various ISPs out there, through Gmail's spam firewalls and everyone else is out there, and actually getting into your prospect or customers' inboxes. And so we just realized that it's a really complex thing. It's ever changing. We brought Amazon in, or we went to Amazon and built it into their system so that we could really provide best-in-class deliverability right here in the HubShout system. So the first thing you do is set that up. One of the parts of setting that up is then authorizing certain email addresses to be able to send email. So that's the first step. The second step is to create a list. And I mentioned before that there are really a few different ways to do that. And click on the list tab. One way to do it is to say, I have an existing list of 5,000 customers who over the past 5 years have been in touch with my business. So you could literally go create a new email list, and then using a simple cut and paste CSV, you can paste in a list of names. So that's one way to do it. The other way would be to create new prospects coming in from your website. So when you use and set up, and again, there's other demos on this, or contact your account manager, but when you set up your web to lead form, so that when your data is, when someone enters a contact us form on your website, and that data then comes into your dashboard and also emails out saying and notifying you that there's a new lead, you can also configure that lead form so that it also adds it to a list. So in this case, it might be that we want to add it to list 62 because that's where VetHub's new prospects go. So you simply put it in list 62. So that's another way. And then the third way was the web to list form, and let's just actually go in and I'll show you how that works here. So I'm going to go into a list I call my newsletter, and you can see here on the right that I can enter a return URL. So this just, once we collect the data, we need to know where to take the user back to. But once you enter that, you can then grab this code and just drop this onto your website, and you'll have a little form that submits directly to this list. So those are the three ways that you can build lists today in the platform. Once you have a list, the next place you want to go is you need to start working on your templates. So I'm going to go back to our graphic here. So I have a list. I now have a newsletter list I created, and I put 5,000 people in from the past 5 or 10 years of business. So I'm a small company, but I have a list of 5,000 people. Now I need to send them. I need to pick a template to send. So I'm going to go down to templates now. And these are my active templates, but I also have over here two other options. One is to create a new blank template or go from the template library. I'm just going to show you the template library, so I'm going to click that. And so what you see here is we have an assortment of different types of templates that we put together, and we are always interested in feedback on the list of templates we have today and whether there might be ones that people would like to have. But what we tried to do is create a cross-section of some pretty fancy templates, because we know some people just really want a fancy template, and some pretty simple templates because, again, there are times where you just want something that looks professional, almost like a letterhead type template, and you don't need something that's overly complicated with tons and tons of graphics. So I'm going to pick a simpler one just for today and for demo purposes. I'll pick what's called the pure text email. Nice thing about this one is that it's very easy to edit because there really aren't any graphics in it. So Okay, so now I have a template that I've created, and this template, our template library, actually allows you to use our WYSIWYG editor, and that's for those of you who don't know what WYSIWYG is. It's what you see is what you get, so it's kind of like editing a Word document. So I'm going to click editor here, and I can actually now go in, and every one of the text areas is now an editable area. So I can just click into one of these text areas, takes me to a screen where I can now edit that text and say save. And that's been updated. So you can actually go through this and add the name of the company, edit links, edit news stories, and then get this ready to send out, edit the contact us location. So once you actually have a template in place, you can then use this template and copy it the next time. So I'll actually show you how to do that. So we've now created this template. Let's just say this was going to be our March newsletter. So now I'm going to go back into the template area. And here's my demo template 3. So I'm going to go into demo template 3. And there's an option here to the right to say copy this template. So I can take this template and now make it my April newsletter, copy it, and what's going to happen is I now will just move that right over. I can go in, edit the text, and send it out. So you kind of have two choices. You can either create the one you want for this month and then sort of every month take the one from last month, copy it, write a new one, or you could set up one as more of the generic template, leave it in more of a general template state, and then when you're ready to write the March newsletter, go take a copy of that, say this is going to be the March version, and then go back to the original template in April and say take that one and move it forward to April. So whichever way works. I mean, again, sometimes it's easier just to get one looking right and then copy it to the next month and change the text around. So once you have a list and a template, it's time to send the campaign. So I can just go to the campaign screen now, and really all the campaign is doing is allowing you to link a list and a template together and tell it how and when you want to send. So in this particular case, we haven't verified our from address, but I can name this template test template 3, and then I'm basically at this point just picking that I want to send the newsletter. And then I want to send my new demo template 3 that I created, and I have two choices. If I send a newsletter, it's automatically going to send today because that's sort of a bulk send to everybody on the list. Or I can flip over. I'm sorry, if I send a newsletter. Sorry, if I send a newsletter, it's going to send today. You can see it disables the send date because it's going to go the minute you save it and say to go. But if I do pick an autoresponder, I then have a choice of what day I want to make that go, and I can pick from. I think we have up to. We'll see here, up to 360 or so days. So you can really program out your date pretty far out and create a pretty long autoresponder program. So those are the three pieces. You create a list, you create a template, and then you join them together with the campaign, and that's how our, again, tool works. But since the point of this conversation was talking about how to sell email, you can sell it like this. You can say, I'll show you how to use my email service, right? And maybe there's a little bit of done-for-you services in there where we bring in and help you build the first template. Or you can say, look, what my client really wants is the solution, so we're going to actually help you, or you're going to do it yourself, deliver a monthly newsletter that gets sent out, and then you can click back over here to the email stats screen and give them stats on how many sends went out, how many emails were opened, and all the other information that they might want. So that's a quick review of the email platform as we talk about how this works.
Chad, you do have a few technical questions that have come in. One is there seems to be no ability to add data fields when collecting the lead, such as name and phone number. The code that you're showing generating here, which must have been back when you were on that other screen, doesn't seem to have those fields. How do I add different fields to my form to embed into my site?
Yeah, that's great. So we'll talk about this. The web to lead form is really a kind of a separate area, but we can bounce over and just look at the setup of this really fast. So this is where I'm now in the sales tab, and I actually went to setup, and then I clicked on lead form. And so this is the web to lead form where you would actually have a example would be a contact us type of situation. And so we do have a set of defined fields that you can use. So account name or business name, first name, last name, address fields, phone number, email, website, and then we have a user custom and a notes. So what we typically have seen is that when people do have some specific questions that are outside of the fields that we provide here, you can actually, there's a way to map the fields into our user custom field or into our notes field. And so then any other data would just be captured in the lead. It would not be, it would be unstructured because it would be in a longer notes field, but the data could be collected in whatever way you want it on the form and just populated into a sort of a notes field with the rest of that information. Now, if you do choose up here to say, I want, whenever someone completes this web to lead form, I want, and just we're going to kind of keep our eyes in this area of the hidden inputs. Let's just say that I do want to add them to my newsletter when they fill out this lead form. You'll see that as one of the hidden inputs, we actually say when this form is completed, add them to list 61, which is our newsletter list. So what happens there is that the way our email works is that it is first name, last name, and email address. So that's if you wanted to send out dynamically inserted other fields in an email copy, that's something we don't currently support.
Another question you've got here, Chad, is back on the campaign setup. When you were building the autoresponder, it only said it was going to send on one day. The autoresponder should have more than one email.
Got it. Good. That's a great point. So actually, for every day that you want to send an email out, you would build an autoresponder campaign. So let's just take a look at that. So actually, the way this would work is, let's just say that I was going to create a 7-part autoresponder. I would actually literally go in and create 7 different campaigns and set them to send on different days. So this might be autoresponder day 1, okay, and its type is an autoresponder. The list it's going to go to is web leads. The template is going to be my demo template 3, and I want this to go on day, let's just say day 1, okay. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to go create a new template, new email, and now I'm going to change it to day 3, and I'm going to pick a different template because my day 3 email I want to be different. I'm going to just say it's test template in this case. So I now would say for campaign autoresponder day 3, I still want to send it to my web leads list, and I want it to be anybody, but I want the template to be test template, and I want this to go on day 3. So just think about that for a second. The way this works is the way days get defined is based on when they were added to the list. So if you set up a 7-day autoresponder and you add someone today, that means that tomorrow when the system wakes up and figures out who it needs to send that to, it's going to look for anybody who was added yesterday. The campaign that is set up for day 3 is also going to wake up and say, I'm going to send it to anybody who was sent 3 days ago, but there isn't going to be anybody 3 days ago, right? Because you just set it up today. So that's how it works. And then every day it wakes up and says, let me go get people that were added 3 days ago, 4 days ago, whatever that number might be, and it just sends the emails out. So every autoresponder is technically its own campaign, has the same list as all the other autoresponders because you want that tied to the list, has a different send day, and has a different email template, unless for whatever reason you want to send the same email template over and over again, but that would pretty much defeat the purpose of an autoresponder. So that's how you set up an autoresponder campaign.
Nice, yeah, and I think that's a very frequently asked question, which leads me to believe we maybe have named this function poorly, Chad, or it says campaign, because in our language, when we say build an autoresponder for a client, what that really means, as Chad just explained, is a cluster of campaigns, each set to send on a different day, and I can see where that's a little confusing. While you were talking, Chad, someone chimed in and said, is there any way to have your autoresponder send an email immediately? In other words, day 0, I don't see it on your dropdown.
That's another great feature request, and one that we've had a couple times. So I think that's something we also want to look at. Not supported today, but that is something that we've talked about.
And another one that came in here. This is a great system, guys. I use it, and I think email is a very important metric for any business. One limitation I have bumped into is not allowing me to export my list into a CSV. Is that a feature you guys would entertain, because I need to import this data into a CRM?
Yeah, that's definitely, I think we'd want to probably just have a little bit of a better understanding of the specific requirements, but that's probably something, again, we're open to feedback. We just are looking for sort of the most useful features that's going to get people using this. So, all of these things are great feature requests.
Yeah, I agree. Keep the feedback coming. We always like to hear from this group. It always steers us in the right direction. Another one for you, Chad. Could we convince you guys to add the lead form creation tool to the email tab? If I have a customer who isn't purchasing sales services, they wouldn't be able to see the sales tab.
Yeah, that's a good, that may be just a naming convention thing. Really, sales to us was all about sort of CRM Lite and phone tracking, and the idea was that, and that's a part of the core reporting service, so basically everyone has access to the phone tracking and lead tracking component, and it's used across various mediums, right? So we might have a client who has a pay-per-click and an SEO program running, and they have a lead form that's funneling leads into their dashboard from 2 different places. So we sort of felt like that was its own functional unit over there. It's just kind of how it's basically our CRM Lite, if you will. But it's good feedback. I think we probably should look at ways to maybe connect the two a little bit more seamlessly.
Good point.
Okay, well, it was really a pleasure talking about this. This is an exciting topic.
I'm sorry, Chad. I got a few more comments. Okay. I was waiting to see if you were done with the demo. So
I'm done, yeah.
Okay, great. Here's one that I think is interesting. I wanted to warn that sometimes when you are first putting together your list, it's easy to get discouraged. You'll get a lot of bounces because they may have changed jobs, or you'll get people complaining that you are spamming them, etc. But keep at it, because after a couple of months, you'll drill down to the people who really expect to hear from you, and you will get a good, consistent open rate. Your clients may get discouraged also, but keep encouraging them to stick with it, because the return on investment from this activity is well researched. And I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
And then the last one here I have, Chad, is guys, this stuff is great, and I encourage anyone on the webinar to use it, because if you use it, you will want to sell it. And that's probably a great closing comment. Thank you. Guys, some sharp group today. We've got some great comments coming in.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, this is fun stuff, and we're excited to have this as another option, another way to let all of us expand the role we have with our clients and providing great solutions, and also increasing and improving their ROI. So with that, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Yeah, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Take care.